The introduction. Welcome to a talking book by Remley E. Room. I would like to share with you some outlooks on familiar things from not so familiar perspectives, perhaps. This book proposes many points of view. All I ask is that you think about them. You are free to accept them or reject them. I have no intention of convincing anybody about anything. All I ask is that you broaden your mind by seeing how some great people think about things. Now, how you decide to think about things is your own personal choice. But know that many others approach life from different points of view. Now, their viewpoints may be complete or incomplete, true or partly true, satisfactory or unsatisfactory, acceptable or unacceptable. But no great culture and no great person can hold a position for a long period of time unless there is some truth underlying that position. The human pursuit of truth is a fundamental drive of mankind. Time tests the position and forces modification wherever the seeker of truth finds a given position no longer entirely true or entirely satisfactory or entirely acceptable. Filtering truth through different perspectives has produced great cultures and great persons whom you must admire. Now, after all, history has placed them on a pedestal, sometimes on a very real pedestal with a very real image. Of course, how you think is reflected in how you react over the long haul, especially at moments of crisis, when you haven't the time to sit down and theorize, but have to react from the seat of your pants. Now, when you take a good look at those times, you can discover how you really think. I'm always reminded of this parable of the crusader. Fornication, adultery, and drinking alcohol must be wiped out at any cost. And all of those people who do those things will certainly go to hell. Now, let Uncle Louis be found dead in a motel room in bed with some bimbo, suffocated by exhaust fumes, and let the religious authorities deny Christian burial and watch the reaction. Don't they realize that God is merciful? Who are they to judge? And the family goes to find a spiritual spokesman who will do a religious rite at the graveside. Now, what do you think that crusader really believes? Well, when the chips are down, they don't think, Uncle Louis went to hell, so you might as well throw that damned corpse on the garbage heap. No. They say, Uncle Louis was a fine man. Oh, he had his faults. But do you remember those 3 boys he rescued by being a big brother to them? See how fine they turned out? And they wouldn't have, except for Uncle Louis's careful time spent with them for so many years. So what is the God concept here? This is a scorekeeper God. And the final score on Uncle Louie is plus 14. So to heaven he goes. Don't those narrow-minded clergy see that? Or take Pope Pius XII, offering Mass for the repose of the soul of Adolf Hitler. Goodness gracious. Or, good grief. That monster who rightfully committed a double murder-suicide as the appropriate way for that no-goodnik to go to his eternal damnation? Well, somehow Pius XII didn't really think there was a deadline with the last shot. Or else, why was he offering Mass for the repose of his soul? Now, I don't know what Pius XII wrote about those things, but I can see how he really thought when the chips were down. Pius XII must have thought that God is merciful, even to monsters like that. Now that is his real God concept, despite the uproar in the Christian world because of what Pius did. So, take a look at these God concepts. Find out where you really are. Not what you say in moments of peace and calm, but where you really are. These impressions have been gained over a long span of years after much reading of many significant authors. From a good education in literature, drama, social studies, history, philosophy, science, and theology, both here and abroad. From situations observed, felt, and lived in travels to many parts of the world, now not as a tourist, but as a live-in friend in many cultures. Among them, technology-conscious United States, with its great variety of religious denominations, but insisting on separation of church and state, yet a place where you can buy frozen anything from anywhere. Socialist Switzerland, where everything must be just so. Kaleidoscopic France, where nobody cares what you do as long as you pronounce it correctly. Monolithic Spain, with its great passion. Hang loose Italy, with its ritual spectacles and then its double standards on off days. The ever busy and productive Teutonic nations. Guilt-ridden Ireland, that is always in pain, but drowning that pain and ending up in song. The once dominant British Isles. Hindu India, with its simple, dignified poverty. Bottom line Nepal, dabbling in the realm of spirit with monastic observance that produces great guru types, and yet still offers blood sacrifice occasionally. Japan, with the great Zen masters, yet totally involved in this day-to-day world until something goes wrong, and that's solved by self-annihilation and suicide. The Latin Americas, that all get baptized into Christianity and then ritually sacrifice a chicken when the Christian rites are concluded. The tribes of Kenya, that live in a different pattern from the nuclear family, and yet have produced a great religious literature and music. Java, with its Dutch Christianity and its Muslim practices, living in the midst of the world's biggest breadbasket. The Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong Chinese complex, with the most industrious and education-seeking people I have ever seen, and yet clinging to an immense reverence for the roots from which they come, and regulated by great behavior patterns springing from culture and custom. Israel, that never forgets that they are the chosen people with a God-given homeland, and yet they're always in the oy vey posture of the persecuted ones, living in the timeless environment of Abraham and Moses. Egypt, with its ancient Coptic Christianity and its majority domination by Islam. Greece, with its sense of who they are, while living sensuously in the midst of mountains and seas so close to nature, but surrounded by classical culture and Byzantine splendor. Turkey, with its ferocity tempered by the great centers of Christian patriarchal Istanbul and dedicated Islam, and yet cradling the great ruins of Ephesus, the home of Mary, John, and Paul. Ethiopia, with its ancient Coptic church and 7 tribes that never quite become one nation, while struggling in a land that's mostly desolate terrain. Or ghetto Christianity in pockets of the United States, where Christianity is expressed in fundamentalism, or Mediterranean exuberance, or Puritan conservatism, or middle-class conformism. Or the South, with its landed gentry and simplistic poverty in a mix of races. Or Megapolis, with its great cultural and technological advantages, but commuting in an environment of terrifying violence. So there. Now you know my prejudices. But do you see the great mix of God concepts being lived out with good results for the growth of mankind and the development of the species? Life in this teeming sea of diverse beings. And yet, you and I emerge unique. What is the control unit inside that drives us to do what we do and think what we think? Now that is the purpose of this talking book. To describe different outlooks, some or all of which I have synthesized into what is me. Now what are the outlooks that trigger me into discussion or action? How to use this talking book. Well, now you may listen to the tapes as you're driving around and see if anything strikes you or stimulates you. You may sit down with the printed text and fill in your own notes on those pages with things you feel may be worth remembering, or with thoughts prompted to be recorded from your own life, or your own study, or your own social experience. Or you may listen to the tapes with a friend and compare reactions. At any rate, here's some raw material to digest. Now, this is not intended to be a book of scholarship. Scholars need to specialize and spend prodigious amounts of time in research and meditation. This is a smorgasbord of ideas, insights, and reactions. And all of them are gleaned from reading, experience with a variety of peoples, and from personal reflection over many, many years.
You are the